She's a ghostwriter and a developmental editor. She's worked with hundreds of authors, from newbies to New York Times bestsellers authors with millions of books sold. AJ teaches her method in Top 3 Book Workshop and the Must Read Editing Workshop. She's the head writing coach for Heroic Public Speaking and the Premier Speaker Training Program created by Michael and Amy Port. She's writing partner to the business author Mike Michalowicz. If you haven't heard of him, look him up and read everything he's written, and AJ has written fabulous. They've written 9 books together, including Profit First. AJ is the author of Writer Must Read, Craft a Book That Changes Lives, including your own. And you can connect with her at the link that I'm going to drop into the chat in a minute. Julia, I think you've got some bits to say as well.
Oh, you're going to give me a chance to fangirl?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. AJ, welcome. AJ knows about the Qualified Tutor community and the Love Tutoring Festival because she's been helping me to craft my message and my book. And so bringing your voice here, AJ, is like alchemy, because every person in this room has a story, a message, a journey, and because it intersects so beautifully with mine, I cannot wait to see what ripples are going to come out from here. So I'm curious and I'm grateful. Thank you. Let's go.
Thanks for having me. I so rarely get inside a world of one of the authors I work with. So this is very exciting for me because I've heard about this wonderful community for so long from Julia. She adores this community and it's her heart and soul. And so this is a privilege for me to be here at 7 o'clock in the morning, New York time. Happy to be here for all of you. So I love that you love Mike. So I'm going to start with a Mike story. I'm not the type of person who sits in the front row at conventions or trainings. I'm that back of the room person. I like the last row, right that's closest to the door, so that I can exit the room before everybody else and escape to my hotel room so I don't have to attend a networking event and I don't have to talk to anybody. This is how I roll. I'm a back of the room person. And I was at a speaking convention and stunned when the person that was running the convention called me up on stage out of the blue. And of course I had to go. So I had to walk all the way up to the front of the stage. And then while I was standing there, he revealed to the audience something that I never talk about publicly, or at least hadn't at that time, that I write with Mike Michalowicz. And here's the problem with that. I may be a back of the room girl that not a lot of people know about. He is the opposite of that. And even though I'm not him, I'm so absolutely not him, something happens when you say his name. People get very excited, and it's almost as if I can be the proxy for him. So here I am standing on the stage, just miles from the door, miles from the door, not my comfort zone. And the whole time the person is talking, I was thinking, how am I going to get out of here? Because I could see people, you could just kind of tell they were going to try and talk to me, and I can't have them talk to me. So I managed to get down off the stage. I had, I sort of visualized a route. How can I get out of here quickly? I made it to the door just before everybody stood up to leave. And then I sort of fast walked down to the elevator, pressed the button, and just as I got in and the door started to close, like in a movie, it really was like that, a hand went into the door to stop them from closing. And a person walked down, and she had a ponytail and she was carrying her little roller suitcase, and she was out of breath. And she said, "I'm so sorry, but is it true that you wrote Profit First with Mike? Do you know Mike?" I said, "Yes." And she said, "Can you please give him a message?" And she got really emotional. And this was years ago, and I'm still emotional talking about it. She said, "Can you tell Mike, thank you so much, because I read his book and it saved my business." So it wasn't like a stalker situation in the sense that I had to be scared. It turned out to be fine. But the point is that type of thing where a person will chase you, a person who's clearly trying to escape will chase you, try and keep an elevator door open just to get a message to the person that they admire from the book that they wrote, is what's possible when you write a book that changes lives. Now, Profit First changed her life, and when you change your reader's life, you change your own in that way. You may not want someone to chase you in an elevator, but maybe you'd like to have an impact on someone through a book, or a lot of someone's. Mike has sold more than 1 million books. He has built a career as an author with multiple streams of income. He keynotes on big stages for top dollar, but more importantly, he's moved closer to his mission, which is to eradicate entrepreneurial poverty. And yet most people who write a book, most authors, they don't sell more than a handful of copies. If you sell more than 2,500 copies of your book, you're in the top 5% of authors. Top 5%. Now, marketing plays a huge role in selling books, of course, but you can't sell a lot of copies. You can't make a big impact with your book if no one is talking about your book. And the way people talk about your book is if you write one that creates real change for them. A book that makes people want to say, you've got to read this. I love this book. So building a community, a movement around your book and message and the work you do, that's how you do it. Building an empire, if that's what you want to do, like Mike, around your book and message, that's how you do it. Becoming a legit bestseller, as opposed to, say, an Amazon bestseller for a day, a perennial bestseller. That's how you do it. And I'm excited to be here today because I think you all have something to share. You may not want to write a book today, but you might want to write one later. And what you'll learn today is also helpful in just branding, messaging, getting clarity about your business. I'm also excited to be with you today because I feel a kinship with you. Part of my job is working with authors to help them learn the craft of writing a must-read book. And like you, I have to meet them where they are and find the doorways in to connect with them and the best path to help them understand brand new concepts, language they've never heard before, a lot of stuff that's often really scary to think about. And if you really want to make an adult learner uncomfortable, what you want to do is try telling them to accept the creative process. That's terrifying for them. That's a real journey. I started the Mike story today because you know him, but also to talk to you about a challenge he gave me. So I was a ghostwriter for 10 years and I worked one-on-one with authors. I was that back of the room girl. Very few people knew about me. I was comfortable in my little role. And when I decided to retire from ghostwriting and just write with Mike and maybe do something else, he challenged me to figure out how to break down what I do and teach it to others. But I thought for years that it was an intuitive ability that couldn't be taught. I thought that the work I did one-on-one could not be duplicated. And so I rejected any idea someone had that I should bring knowledge into the world. But he called me out. He told me, that's your ego talking. And he was right. And he said, everyone has a system. I just had to find mine and then make sure I could teach it to others. So I figured it out. And thank goodness, because so many of my authors are changing the world already. Yes, they sell a lot of books, but more importantly, they're making a huge impact. One of my students told me last month that one of her readers carries her book around in her backpack as a touchstone and as a reference. She carries it with her everywhere. Another student told me last month that one of her readers buys books for all the children he knows. And another student who was a special ed kid in remedial reading just told me last week that her book is now being taught in universities here. So I did have a system and I did have a process, frameworks I created, checklists, but I wasn't really aware of them. I just used them for myself in the work I did one-on-one. I had a method for this and a solution for that. And the thing is, you do too. You have your own methods and tools and strategies and approaches to getting through to people. And that's something that if you can do with one person, you can break down into a book to teach many. And if you taught other people how to do what you do, if you help parents or other tutors, or maybe you would write a book for students, how many people could you help? And how could the world be different because you did? So when we sit down to write a book, we have to be mindful of what I call the reader transformation sequence. And it goes like this: buy, read, finish, act on, tell. Readers will buy your book because you have a solution for their problem. They'll read your book because you see them and you get them. They'll finish your book because they trust you. They'll follow your advice in the book because you believe in them. And they'll tell people about your book because they believe in you. And that transformation sequence is something you have to be mindful of if you want to write a book that truly makes a difference and changes lives. Now, I love books that changed my life, and I've shout from the heavens. Julia knows this story very well. I have a book that I love probably more than any other nonfiction book called The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield, and I recommend it constantly. In fact, I'm doing that right now while I talk to you. Stephen Pressfield is my hero, and I was very, very, very honored and bowled over and maybe crying in my car at the home improvement store parking lot when he agreed to endorse my book. But years before I ever even met him, he wrote a book that helped me become a writer in the way I wanted to be. The War of Art absolutely changed my life. And because of that, I recommend it constantly. I've bought hundreds of copies. I automatically sign up for anything he wants me to do. I'll stay on his mailing list forever. And even if you aren't thinking about having a career as an author, having a book like that in part of the work you do, wouldn't that be helpful to have people who are so connected to you because of the change you help them with that they'll just pretty much stay in your world and your orbit forever? I checked this morning, by the way, The War of Art, which was initially published in 2003 or 2002. I have to get that right. It's now been reissued under his own label because he got his rights back. But that book that is 20 years old, 20 plus years old, is selling right now 3,600 copies this month, which is more than most books sell in their lifetime. And that's 20 years later. And that's because I'm just one person that's spreading the word about that book. And that's the power of writing a must-read book. Readers want your book to be the one. They're not like casually dating your book. They're not saying, I might try. They want it to be the one that has answers for them. Maybe not all the answers, they're not really deluded. They're just like hopeful. Maybe this is it. Maybe this one will really help me do the thing I want to do. They want you to help them finally solve something or finally do something. And to do that, you've got to intentionally create an experience for them. You have to intentionally take them from where they are to where they want to be. And in order to do that, you need to make a crucial shift. You need to understand that a book is not about something. A book is for someone. That's one thing to write down. That's the core message of everything I teach. A book is not about something. A book is for someone. When you make this crucial mindset shift, everything changes. Now you are 100% focused on your reader, and you can make every decision about writing that book based on what they need and how to deliver on the promised transformation. You can shift from wondering, how do I organize my content? What do I talk about? How do I facilitate this transformation? You can talk about that, think about that, and answer all those questions just by refocusing on your reader as opposed to what you want to do, your ideas, your stories. This is what I want to say. It cuts through all that noise. It also helps you stay the course. when you're struggling, and you will, because writing a book is not easy, no matter what anyone tells you. It's a long journey, longer than you think it is, with more steps and turns than you think. That connection to your reader is the thing that helps you stay the course. Constantly remind yourself, I'm writing this book for someone, or a lot of someone's. And that's what's going to keep me sitting in my chair, putting my fingers on the keyboard or pen to paper. So your book is the roadmap to get them where they want to go. What transformation can you promise them? What will happen when they turn the last page? How will they be different? And to facilitate that change, you first have to understand exactly who your reader is. And we can do that in a little workshop together. And by the way, if you all have questions about publishing, authorship, literally any aspect of it, I have set aside time for us to do some Q&A, so no worries there. But I want to do a little workshop right now, if you're game. We're going to do a reader statement. And this is something Julia's done. It's very powerful. And even if you aren't planning on working on a book, it can help you clarify exactly who you are serving in your business, which will help you in branding, sales conversations, other messaging, scaling your business, all of that. So it's really, really helpful. It's called a reader statement. And now forgive me, because I've never been to the UK, although it's number one on my list of places to travel next. Do you have Mad Libs? Do you have Mad Libs there? Do you know what they are? Okay. They are these little books, and we have them everywhere here, that have a story with fill in the blank, right? So you would fill in, it would be part of a story, then a blank word, and underneath it would say, fill in with the type of fruit, fill in with your favorite movie star, fill in with a color. And then when you were done, you would have a story that you wrote just by answering these questions. So we're going to, oh, Georgina says, haven't done one of those in a while. Okay. Mad Libs. We're going to do Mad Libs for a reader statement. It's for fill in the blank. Okay. And I'm going to see if I can copy and paste this right into the chat. Yep. Okay. So your first is, I am writing for, and if you're not writing a book, that's okay. Just think about who you're serving. You can just transfer it in this way. I am writing for blank. Now that first blank is a simple demographic, right? So it could be as simple as, for Julia, tutors. It doesn't have to be anything complicated, like tutors who live, who get up at 7 o'clock in the morning to do a keynote in England. It could be just as simple as tutors, right? For me, it's aspiring authors and established authors who want to write a must read is the next part. So aspiring authors and established authors, tutors, parents, right? The second one is who want. So this is the thing they want, the way they would describe it. So if it's your readers, who are they? If it's the people you serve, what is it they're really ultimately looking for? Try to keep it as simple as possible. And the reason they can't get it is because they are struggling with blank. Now, this is a crucial distinction that actually changes an entire book. This third and fill in the blank, it's not what you think the problem is. It's what they think it is. So they don't have your knowledge or expertise. They're as far down the road as you. So how would they say it? What do they think the issue is? May not be correct. Probably isn't. But what language would they use to describe what's in their way? And then the fourth one, that's where you put your stamp on it. And they may not realize that. So they may not realize it's really this other thing, or it's also this other thing. Maybe they're partly right, but there's more to it. Or maybe they're totally wrong, and it's really this other thing. So we'll just take 5 minutes, we'll see if we can get most of you through it in 5. And then I would love some brave souls to volunteer to read their reader statements to me so I can offer you some feedback.
Жизнь — это либо дерзкое приключение, либо вообще ничего.
Starting to see these reader statements come in, and you're all so interesting and different and cool. Oh, these are great. All right, so I want to just, you can keep writing if you aren't done, that's cool. I would love to have a couple brave souls willing to talk through reader statement. I encourage you to look in the chat and see some great examples. First of all, if you wondered at all if you were doing something amazing, I think looking at this this is really remarkable. Look at the change that you're providing. So before I call on people or before you raise your hand, it's fine, you can volunteer. I'm not going to force you to do it. This reader statement, even in its current state, even as a draft that you haven't had any feedback on, can dramatically change the way you talk to people about the work you do. Now you have something very simple you can say about the people you serve. You can just change it as, I work with people who want success and happiness, but they're struggling with self-esteem and motivation, and they may not realize that they actually have the ability. You can just articulate this easily now. You can use this when you write copy. You can use this in your marketing. You can use this in, again, sales conversations. Now it's a simple thing so people can identify themselves and say, that's me. That's exactly what I need. And when it comes to a book, this is one of the most powerful tools you can use. Most authors of nonfiction don't go through this rigorous process of getting super clear about reader. And if they do, they tend to go in the other direction where they're focusing on, say, an avatar of a, creating some sort of pretend character. It's really about hearts and minds, what your reader wants and what they perceive is standing in their way. That's honestly it. So it could be people of a lot of different demographics, right? All right. So let's, who's willing to talk through it with me and just get some honest feedback? I'm gentle, I promise. I promise. Who's willing to go? Okay, I see a hand up, Lucy. Hi, Lucy.
Hi there.
Nice to meet you. Why don't you read your statement for me?
Yes. My statement is I'm writing for parents who want to hire a tutor, but they are struggling to find a solution that fits their needs. They may not realize there are several possible routes through the market minefield.
Okay. And how did it feel to create that statement, is to have that clarity, or had you already had that clarity?
I was talking to a friend last night whose daughter is facing A-levels and son is facing GCSEs next summer. And she was telling me how all the parents were panicking and trying to find tutors. So in fact, I wrote a document about how to hire a tutor and what to expect and how to get yourself organized for it and what the options were. And I thought, actually, it may be quite short, but this is a book, really. This could be a book.
We're witnessing the birth of a book?
Idea to me.
Awesome.
We're indeed witnessing the birth of a book.
Okay. This is fantastic.
I feel the last bit needs work.
Yes.
Because you know, I know that finding a tutor, it is a minefield, and you know, putting a post on a Facebook group saying, oh, I'm looking for a tutor for my son or daughter, you know, you get inundated with messages. How do you work out who's good and who's not? And look at the amount of time it takes you to deal with all those individual messages. And if you go through an agency, whether it's an online only agency or a, you know, sort of more established one like, you know, Burson Marsteller or someone, you are going to be paying top whack. You're going to be paying a lot of money, not all of which is going to go to the tutor. So it doesn't necessarily guarantee you the right tutor for your child.
So let me stop you there if you don't mind.
Yes, sorry.
That's okay. I love to listen. That's how I know how to help. So the last part, number 4, that is actually what becomes the second part of the work we do in creating the foundational pieces for a book. Yeah. It's what we call core message. You might be familiar with a core message developed in my workshop called Tutoring is Not Plan B. That was developed in my workshop.
Right.
That 4th blank is the seed of core message. It isn't the core message. It's the beginning of the understanding, because it's your unique perspective and understanding and how it relates to the rest of the part of that message, that statement that is core message. So what I'm guessing is it's true what you say. There are a lot of options, but you have a deeper understanding about how to navigate it. I'm going to guess that you could sit down with a person and say, well, here's the approach you want to take in trying to choose a tutor.
Yes, it would be very much based on analysis of them and their situation. And what their personal preferences are. You know, are they the kind of person who needs a very fancy, very expensive car, for instance, in which case they are going to want Burson Marsteller. You know, or are they someone who's thinking, I've got 4 kids to get through GCSE and A-levels, I can't spend a fortune. It's the route through the marketplace is dictated by their situation.
Okay, so that's the core of what you're really saying. So often we put something in number 4, it's true, right? It doesn't mean what you're saying is incorrect, but it's not the thing that's going to make the light bulb go on for people. It needs to be a statement that ultimately shifts thinking. That's transformational on its own. It's very hard to get to it. So we're not going to do it today. If someone gets it today, then everybody should. Do you have a lottery there? Everyone should play, because it's really hard. I don't think Julia would mind me sharing that she worked tirelessly on it for weeks. But that 4th part is the beginning of it. It's your unique perspective and understanding that if they only knew it, it could change everything.
Yeah.
So keep tinkering with that. But I love the clarity you have so far. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I'd love another volunteer if there's anybody who's willing to. Now you've heard that I'm not going to be painful. I'm going to mispronounce your name. Khalid.
Yeah, Khalid. Yeah, close enough.
Khalid. Okay.
Yeah, no
4
problem.
times the charm.
There you go.
Okay. Let's
Um,
hear it.
Yeah, my statement here, I'll copy paste it again in the chat just for your quick reference.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
I am writing for parents who want to secure their child's future, but they are struggling with getting their child to get good grades, and they may not realize that it actually starts with mindset, confidence, understanding more than memorizing. I know it's clunky, but that's the idea.
So yes, I love the secure their child's future. That's really specific. So if you were to say, I'm writing for parents who want to secure their child's future, or I'm serve parents, work with parents who want to secure their child's future, that language will appeal to your exact reader, exact client, right?
Right.
So
That like the fear of my child being, they want their child because they associate good grades with good future, which is not always the case, obviously, but in the end, they don't want good grades. They just want a good future for their kid, right?
That clarity you have is magic. You already have that,
you.
and that's amazing. And what happens when you have that specificity is, and everybody just raises their hand who connects to that. That's me, that's me, that's me, that's me. You're speaking to me. And that's the difference of saying what your book is about. So if, let's say you wanted to write a book about mindset, and somebody said, what's your book about? It's a book about mindset to help you improve school performance. That reader may not know that they need it, but if you say, I'm writing for parents who want to secure their child's future. Hello, I'm sitting up, I'm listening. What you got? What do you have? Probably something I need, right? So that's great. They're struggling with getting their child to get good grades because that's the problem as they see it. Excellent. And then this last part, you've got several things. So a good core message is one thing, right? So sometimes the core message is you have, like in Mike's book, it's got 2 parts. He's known to have a disruptive setup sentence and then the truth. And I did that too. A disruptive setup sentence and then
which is what they think it is and what you
a book is not about something, a book is for someone. Or traditional accounting methods are killing your business, take your profit first. So it could just be one sentence though, like tutoring is not plan B. That could be your core message. So it sounds like though your unique perspective is about mindset, because technically I would assume mindset is going to impact confidence. So you probably don't need both of those in there, right? Or it could be confidence that I think understanding instead of memorizing is probably what I would call a teaching point, meaning it's something you also want to say, but it's not the core thing. Think of your message as everything hinges on you getting this. You have to realize that it's not about the fact that they don't understand. It's because they have a confidence issue.
Yes, exactly.
So I think your core message is rooted probably in confidence.
Okay.
And you might have a setup sentence like, you think it's because they're not paying attention, or you think it's because they don't have good executive function, however they would label it. What you don't understand is this is not an intellect issue, or this is a confidence issue, or this is not an organizational issue. This is a confidence issue. Well, what would they label it as? Behavior, intellect, who knows? What do you think? What do you see most often?
Honestly, I think mindset more than confidence, personally. And when I say mindset, I just mean that when a student is, a lot of them think, I'm bad at math. That's it.
Okay. I got it.
So it does impact the confidence, as you just said, but I'm not sure if, either one could be.
No, it sounds like trust yourself. It sounds like
I would say it's like I would say it's a mindset where they think like, oh, I need the technical skill. Well, it's part of it. It's about that small, the rest is you telling yourself, I don't have a ceiling, or if I don't know it, I don't know it yet. It's possible to learn it. It's possible to improve. I have to put the work. I have to redo a plan, make a strategy.
Okay.
So maybe mindset.
I'm hearing what you're saying is what they don't realize. They're struggling with trying to get help their child get good grades. And what they don't realize is it's not a technical deficit.
Yeah.
It's a mindset issue.
Yeah, more than anything, it is. Technical skills is not a big deal.
Okay, that's a
Sorry,
game
my
changer.
daughter's-
You don't have to apologize. My son just walked in the door, and that's why the door slammed 5 minutes ago. So even though I said I'm doing a speech, it doesn't really matter, right?
I know, okay.
That's okay. We all have kids. It's fine. Life is we're all living life. Or some of us have kids. Anyway, do you hear that? That's an important message though. That constitutes, it's the beginning of a transformational core message.
Okay.
Because if I hear that, I'm a parent and I think it's one thing and now you're telling me it's this other thing, even if I never talk to you again, I can start to make a change. I can maybe be a little less hard on my kid. I can maybe try and learn more about mindset. So even if all you did was say that to me, or I heard you say it on a podcast or in a conversation, or I saw it on your website, I could go, oh, wait, it's not that, it's mindset. I can start to shift my thinking, which is what a core message needs to be. Something that actually is transformational all by itself. So you've actually done remarkable work here today. Really,
thank you.
Really
so
good.
much.
I hope it helps you in your business, and that it sounds like you have something important to say for a book, and I hope that you write it.
That Mad Libs made it really, really easy to get going. There you go.
So I gotta say, this is a little nerve-wracking to speak to tutors because, I didn't train to be a teacher or even a coach. I just, Michalowicz said, hey, you should teach this, figure it out. And so when this is working for all of you who are used to helping people work through their own stuff, this is kind of exciting for me that you would actually find that it works. So that's great. I'm going to do one. Oh, we've got another Lucy. Yes, Lucy.
Hi. Yes, so sorry I haven't got my camera on. I'm just like in the middle of doing many things. But yeah, it's so interesting. I will put I actually just changed like one little bit after listening to you. So yeah. I'm like reflecting. So mine is, I am writing for tutoring agency owners who want to be able to recruit more tutors so they can support more learners through their business. But they're struggling to attract applicants organically because they might not realize that recruitment isn't just posting job adverts.
Okay. I think that's really, really clear. I hope that was helpful to get that clarity for yourself. That fourth part, what is it? So if it's not posting job adverts, what is it?
So they need to work more on positioning their business and the opportunities that the roles that they're able to offer people, whether it's tutors, whether it's people leaving teaching. They need to think about what it is that they do with their tutoring. How the best kind of people, is it going to be people on maternity leave that are looking to get back into like some form of work? Is it people leaving the classroom? But I would say that like the biggest thing is putting a person at the center of their business so that people, almost have like a bit of not a role model, but someone that they think, oh my gosh, yeah, look, that person's done that. And I see that there's so many amazing businesses out there, but all they do is post very generic sort of job adverts. And I guess that must be kind of similar to writing books, right? Because you're sort of trying to position something in a way that's going to initially engage and sort of ask the right questions and make people kind of search within themselves to think, oh yeah, actually that's exactly what I need. That's the opportunity I need. So it's not just like about dry job adverts. And I think that's probably the biggest thing, especially on LinkedIn. People just post job adverts when they need a job straight away or something filled. But actually, using myself as a case study, it's definitely not about that,
Okay. So I would call that down. I hear two things. One is having some sort of a person who represents possibility, right? So that's one, but you also said positioning. That really stood out from what you said. So think about what's the main shift I need to make. There are other things you want to teach them and tell them, but what's the main central thing that you wish they would do differently? One way to think about that last number 4, everybody, if you're trying to really get at it, is to ask yourself 2 follow-up questions, which is, everything would change for my reader or my client if they would only stop doing this and start doing that, right? And then the second question is if they would, everything would change if they would stop thinking this, right? And start thinking that. These are just probing questions you can ask yourself to just zero in on this very simple piece, because you want people to sit up and say, oh my gosh, yes, I have, okay. So that they can start to make a shift. And it's not all the teaching. It's just the central teaching on which everything else hinges. And it takes time. Be patient with yourself. It takes time to get to core message. It's not instant. But I love the clarity you already have. I mean, all of you can use these statements, whether you write a book or not, immediately. You can change copy on your website. You can write emails differently. Again, you can have conversations. In my experience, the conversations are the most impactful. One of the things I have students do in workshop is once they have a reader statement is just start telling people. Put it up on social, talk to people about it. If you ever tried to ask somebody who's writing a book, what's your book about? And then it took them 5 minutes to answer. It's really hard to feel like, I don't know if okay, good. I'm at home, do it. Yay, I'm excited. Go do your book. But if you heard a reader statement that was concise like that, then you would know if it was for you, and you probably would say, it's either for me or someone I know. And that's how you get people to pre-order books and sign up for books. It also makes it super easy for you to talk on podcasts and interviews, all sorts of things. And you'll probably over time be able to smoke out some of my authors because you'll hear them use that exact same sequence when they talk about their book. It's also helped my authors get book deals, write book proposals. So this is really powerful work. I want to take, I think, can someone please remind me, we're going, just we have 9 more minutes, right? Or are we going the full hour? I can't remember.
You can definitely go the full hour, AJ.
Okay. So I would love to just pause for a moment. We'll come back to the third pillar, the third fundamental for writing a book, and also crucial for your business. But I want to just pause for a moment and give a little bit of time for anybody who might have a question about books, publishing. Honestly, it can be a grab bag. That's totally fine. And I can answer almost any question. So does anybody have, let's see, Sarah was wanting to write a book. Is anybody else interested in writing a book? Just a show of hands. Khaled, Julia's already doing it. Karen, Georgina, Serena. Okay, Valentina. I love these names. Okay, so this helps me. Kate, you had a question? Or are you just raising your hand to say you're doing it? Okay. Sarah, you have a question.
I do. I've had the idea. The process is there. I'm writing a book with my son. And where do I even start? I've got the words. We're both good writers. We know our message. We know what to say. But it's that whole sort of like, what do I do with it when I've written it?
So you've written it already?
No. We've discussed it in great length.
Okay.
But
okay. So what kind of book is it? Is it a fiction, nonfiction? Let's start there.
It's nonfiction. It's about neurodiversity. And it's my perspective as a parent and my son's perspective as a son and a soon-to-be psychologist.
Okay. Amazing. Sounds like a much needed book. So you actually already started. I would just like to point out, you worked on your reader statement. So the next process is getting those next 2 fundamentals down, which is core message and promise. We write too soon. It's fine to write stories and journal and get thoughts out, but we have to nail these core fundamentals. Every time I got a manuscript from an author who didn't have this clarity, it was basically a tear down manuscript. You just had to start over. So do yourself a favor and get these fundamentals down first. Then once you have the clarity, you start building content that connects to all those pieces and you organize it into a transformational outline that once you have all those pieces in place, then you can start writing with the clarity you need to be able to stay the course and write efficiently. and to ensure that the writing you're doing is actually going to work for your reader, not just talking about a topic, but actually considering, this is my reader, this is where they're starting, how I'm going to get them over. And so do all that fundamental work first, and then put yourself on a writing schedule.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sure. Absolutely. And I don't know if my book is in your libraries yet, but if you want to check, maybe you can check it out. I don't know if you can go get it for free from a library, but
we've put the link in the chat. It's still available on Kindle only in Amazon.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, supply chain.
Yes, but Georgina has found 2 copies, just 2, in World of Books. She's put the link there in the chat, and I can highly recommend the audiobook, because then AJ's whispering in your ear.
But even if it's not a purchase you want to make, hopefully you can get it. Libraries usually have audiobooks and so forth. I really do work through the entire workshop process in that book. It will help you so much to just think through all of this before you start, because writing a book is very nerve-wracking. And if you don't get that part where you feel pretty good about it, at least, you'll stop so many times and maybe give up. So please do that first, that fundamental work first. And you already started today. In fact, you could say that, and I started my book today, any of you, because you did. This is the very first step. Okay. Anybody else have a question about, and it can be about publishing, writing, and it doesn't have to be just nonfiction. I've personally edited more than 100 novels. So ask me anything. No other questions? How do I do this? No question is, oh wait, Valentina and then Lucy. Okay, I'm sorry, I saw Valentina. 1 second, Lucy. Valentina.
Okay, so conciseness is not my forte, I have to say. So I'll try to formulate this as concisely as possible. So what I wanted to ask you was, what do book publishers look for? I'm thinking about writing fiction book.
Okay.
And what do publishers look for when you're pitching your book, your idea, and how, and this, I know it sounds a bit pretentious and a little bit, kind of paranoid, but how do you protect your story from being pinched? Because it somewhat happened to me before. So
okay, well, let me answer the second one first. I'm sure you have your own process for copyright there. Here in the US, even if you don't pay for copyright, we do what's called the easy copyright, where you mail the manuscript to yourself. So you have the government date on the postage that shows, but let's be real. It is an enormous endeavor to try and get a book to market and then actually build readership. A person who wants to steal it, you can't really stop people from ultimately doing it, but that person would have to have so much fortitude to be able to make a success of it. I mean, it's really tough. So I wouldn't worry so much about it. I wouldn't put your manuscript out publicly online. Just only send it to actual agents or editors who are requesting it. Be careful about who your beta readers are, which are advanced readers who might help you. But then don't worry so much about it. It's a concern I see from people who are just starting, and it's just do your best to protect yourself and don't worry about it. The second part is publishers. It depends. What genre are you writing in?
Say it's hard to pinpoint. It's kind of dark fantasy, self-help book.
Oh, interesting. Okay, you are doing a mashup. Okay.
Yes.
So here's the thing. Right away, I can tell you, publishers need you to have clarity. So what we've been talking today about clarity, even when you're writing fiction, you need to be able to say it's this and this. This is a genre. It's a blend between dark fantasy and self-help. You also need to understand where your book positions in the marketplace. So you have to understand comps, which are comparative market titles, other books similar to yours or serve a similar readership. You have to be able to talk intelligently about that and understand where it fits. The best thing you can do if you're a fiction writer is read in your genre and then get involved in that writing community. And the best way to get involved in that writing community is on Twitter, because authors are hanging out on Twitter, authors who haven't been published all the way up to authors who write millions of books, have sold millions of books. And the author community is very welcoming and non-competitive for the most part. So I suggest that you start connecting with other authors so that you can understand what agents and publishers are looking for, because authors talk amongst themselves. And that way you'll know if you need to avoid a certain publisher, for example. So get immediately involved. Immediately. Don't wait till you've even written your book. Start now. Go get a Twitter if you don't have one, and go start getting involved in author Twitter in the genre you're interested in, and right away. Okay, Luke.
Thank you so much, AJ. That's really, really helpful.
Go now.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet. Okay,
Thank you.
Lucy Saunders, real quick. Yeah,
real quick. This may not be a question you can answer. I'm not having much joy finding the answer. I work with English, and so I need to use extracts from books in the materials I prepare. Now, I know a lot of authors. If I get permission from the author, is that okay, or do I need permission from the publisher?
both.
I need both. Right, okay.
You need both, but you may not need as many extracts as you think. You can often summarize and just pull a couple of quotes, in which case you don't need permission if it's short enough, because copyright law is based on how much of something you take respective to how long the length of the entire work, which is why you can never take a song lyric and put it in a book, because the song only has a few words to begin with.
Yeah, well, if I'm doing unseen poetry, if I don't have the whole poem, I make it rather difficult.
Right. So the poems are just, you can't put them in at all without absolute permission on that.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much for that. That's incredibly helpful.
Sure. Khaled.
Yeah, Khaled.
Okay.
Thank you. My question was about it's about hybrid publishing, or the hybrid model. I don't know what they call it, but that's what they call it here. So I've written a pair of children's book, and one of them we self-published, put it on Amazon, but the other one we approached publishers, and we got 2 offers. One of them from Olympia, which is a publisher in the UK, but it's a hybrid model. So was a little bit reluctant, but then seeing how the first book, the self-published book, I don't have time to do all the marketing and all that stuff, and I kind of would rather rely on a publisher. Just what are your thoughts on the hybrid model? Is it a good idea, or should you hold out and wait for a full ride? No,
it can be an excellent idea. It just depends on who the hybrid publisher is. Your chief concern has to be the quality of the team. So your editorial, and if it's a children's book, your design team. And then also, what is their distribution? So this is a key factor that a lot of authors don't know. A publisher, anybody can call themselves a publisher. Anybody can say they're a hybrid publisher. You can just choose the name, say it. There's no regulatory committee, no certification. So you have to be mindful of making sure that there's quality people on that team. And then, do you have what's called trade distribution? So there's a difference between making a book available where all books are sold, and you can do that easily on your own. And having trade distribution, which has a sales team that's actually trying to get your book on shelves, into schools, into libraries, etc.
That's the main advantage that I was, hoping, or the main support, the distribution channel.
So you need to ask the hybrid, do you have trade distribution, and who is your trade distributor?
Okay.
Because sometimes they'll say we have global distribution, but that's not the same thing. Trade distribution is global, but global isn't necessarily trade. And the distinction is, one, global is great, but it's just fulfilling demand. Trade distribution is fulfilling and creating demand. So
Right.
that's the
Okay.
distinction. So there's no point in going with hybrid if you can't get that distribution muscle.
Yeah,
But I
because that's
do-
the main lacking, the main thing you're lacking, I guess. As an author who's doing nothing, I don't want to be doing the marketing. I want them to set
Okay,
up,
but I need to
media thing or,
I need to correct you on that though. Then
Oh.
you shouldn't, then don't publish it. Because even if you get a traditional publisher or a hybrid publisher that has an amazing team and trade distribution, the responsibility is on you to build public demand. That's it. That's it. That's just publishing. What they do behind the scenes is about getting books on shelves, getting big boxes, getting book clubs, all that sort of thing. Getting individual readers to buy your book, that's you. And so doesn't matter which path you choose, it's all on you. So if you don't want to do the book marketing, then you may not actually want to go ahead with it at all.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, I wrote it for my kids, so it's not, I'm not trying to make $1 million.
Yeah. But I mean, there's other options, I mean, you could say, I'm not going to do the marketing, but or maybe I'm just going to work with libraries, or maybe you could work with using it as a fundraising tool for other purposes. You might just need to rethink the purpose of it out of traditional book marketing.
That's a good point.
Yeah. If you just want to get it out, there are other ways besides that route. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I have time for one short question before I close. If anybody else has a publishing question. Okay. So we've just barely talked about all this, but you already have a foundation that most authors don't have. Having that reader statement is crucial. Getting to core message is absolutely, absolutely essential. And the third piece of the fundamental is promise. You remember that reader statement and core message help a reader see this is for me, and also start to make a shift. Promise is what they really want. That's the thing that they're hoping about. And this is where it's crucial that you listen, that the promise is not just what they want and you say, I can promise this. It's a promise you can deliver on, not someday, not eventually, not 10 years from now, but within the pages of the book. A lot of authors say this will bring you this outcome, but they're not actually sure it will. It just is something they hope will happen. And now you've broken that bond with your reader. When you can deliver on the promise, now you have a reader for life. Absolutely, absolutely for life. The promise is, I like to call it a sacred contract between you and your reader. And it's the same in business. It's the same with your clients. So you ask yourself, what do they want? And then you ask yourself, can I promise that they can experience that within the pages of the book? If you can't, then you have two options. You can modify it so you can deliver it. Because it's okay if it's just a shortened version of that or a lesser version, because as long as you deliver it, it's what matters. But you could also rise to the occasion. You could say, all right, I want to get them here. I don't think with what I currently have, I can do it. What do I need? What else could I say, teach, share that would get them there? So in this way, it up levels your content. So now you're saying, how am I going to do it? How am I going to get them there? Which I know you're doing anyway in your work. How am I going to get this student where they need to go? So you challenge yourself. Do you need to modify the promise, or can you rise to the occasion and create something else, something more, something different that will ensure you deliver on it? One book can change everything for someone. And if enough people read that book, it can change the world. Thank you for having me.
Mic drop. Thank you, AJ. I just found, as you said, that last piece, and I was listening to it in the book the other day, that let's rise, that being sure that you can deliver your promise. Those of us who struggle with confidence, that's hard. That's really hard. And being here in good company and sharing this journey is glorious, because I know the book in Sarah's mind, and I know the book in Lucy's mind, and it's really exciting to see those being born together. So thank you for taking the time with us today. Sarah, will you do the sensible thank you rather than the fangirl one then, please?
I'm not sure I can. I'm just wow. Absolute wow. I know I've got some podcasts to listen to and some books to read now. AJ, thank you so much, because I think just being here, you probably have transformed lives yet again. So, you know, absolutely big thanks to coming along to the Love Tutoring Festival and presenting to us. On a sort of housekeeping side of things, I want to tell you what is coming up over